Hey guys, Nuka here. So in today's video, I want to outline a very versatile and very cheap product. And if you don't have this product in your preps, you should really look at yourself and ask, am I truly prepping the best I can? The product as you see in front of you today will be over what you may know as Vaseline, but also known as Petroleum Jelly. A couple of things I'm going to outline in this video about Petroleum Jelly and the multiple uses for it. But first, let's take a look and make sure that we're actually using the 100% pure petroleum jelly. Kind of like what we learned in our baking soda video. Easiest way to find out, come back and look at the active ingredients. It should say white petroleum USP 100%. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is that this is for external use only. Do not swallow this stuff. I know there are stories out there, people say they eat a teaspoon a day or it keeps them alive, whatever. I don't know. Me, I like to side on the safer side of caution, and I say don't eat it. That's just me talking. As well, you want to make sure you get the ones that contain no colors, no fragrance, no irritants, just strictly 100% pure petroleum jelly or Vaseline. If you've never used petroleum jelly before, it is said that petroleum jelly is hypoallergenic. So while more than likely it won't cause allergies, you should definitely do a small little test just to make sure you're not allergic to petroleum jelly or Vaseline. So now let's outline some of these amazing features about this all-around prepper product. Number one, and probably the biggest reason why people purchase petroleum jelly, is for the moisturizing. Petroleum jelly is great for those dry environments on your body, such as your elbows, knees, hands, feet, you name it. I know that anytime I've had dry skin that I've used petroleum jelly to help keep those parts moisturized, and it actually lasts for a pretty decent amount of time. The only kickback about that is that it may get a little bit messy, but if you don't use too much and you evenly apply it across the skin, you should be fine. And now that's going to bring us into number two, cold weather. Petroleum jelly is great for protecting your hands, especially your knuckles, or your lips and your face from the cold, harsh environment. The reason is because it will help create a little barrier to help protect you from the frigid wind chills. And I know I've used this in about 8-degree weather with wind chill on my face, and when I had petroleum jelly on my face, it did help reduce it and not make it feel so much frozen anymore. And it didn't completely protect it from the cold weather, of course, but there was a barrier there to help protect it, especially my knuckles, from that cold, harsh environment. Number three, lubrication. And I'm not just talking for body parts, but I'm also talking for things such as metal-to-metal contact, like zippers. If you've ever been really frustrated about a zipper getting stuck, next time use a very slight amount of petroleum jelly and that zipper should glide back and forth with no problems. As well, you can use it for certain parts, such as O-rings. You can apply a very small, thin layer of petroleum jelly on the O-ring, and it should help keep that part nice and greased up. Just be careful on what parts you use petroleum jelly on. It is not perfect for everything. For instance, guns. I would not use petroleum jelly to lube up my gun parts on a day-to-day basis. However, in an SHTF scenario like what we're prepping for, I would definitely use a very small amount of petroleum jelly to help lube up my gun parts. Once again, that would only be an emergency situation, and when I have nothing else to lube my gun up, I would use petroleum jelly. Number four, medical uses. Petroleum jelly can be great for small medical uses, such as minor cuts. I'm going to say that again, minor cuts. Not large cuts, but minor cuts and scrapes. Petroleum jelly can be great because what it will do is when you apply a nice thin layer on top of that small cut or scrape, it will help seal the wound and thereby prevent other infections from invading. As well, petroleum jelly can also be used for small rashes, whether they're dry rashes or even for diaper rashes. So for parents out there with babies, it wouldn't hurt to keep a small amount of petroleum jelly around, so that way in case a diaper rash breaks out, you can use a little bit. Keep in mind, make sure you test a little bit to make sure your baby isn't allergic to it before you put on a good amount. As well, petroleum jelly is also great for preventing blisters, especially for your feet. Marathon runners and hikers swear by petroleum jelly because what they'll do is they'll take a nice amount of petroleum jelly and they'll lube up their feet with it. Then they'll put their sock over that And when they put on their footgear and they go out for their marathon run or for their long hike, when they come back, their feet usually don't have any blisters because there's enough lubrication there to keep them from rubbing up against each other for that long extended period. Just keep in mind your socks may be still gunked up with petroleum jelly, and it may not be that easy to get it out in the washing machine. However, once again, SHTF scenario, if you're doing a long walk because you ran out of fuel, whatever the case may be, put a decent amount of petroleum jelly on your feet, put your socks on top, add on your shoe gear, whatever that may be, and then hopefully you will enjoy a nice blister-free walk. And that brings us to number 5, fire starter. That's right. Petroleum jelly can also be useful not only helping to start fires, but also to maintain fires. Now, I'll make a video on this either at the end of this month or possibly around the midway of next month, but it pretty much involves the combination of cotton balls and petroleum jelly. Now, you can look on YouTube. They have some videos on there on how they do it, but I'm going to display my method and how I make my own little fire starters with the simple use of cotton balls and petroleum jelly. Now, one thing I'm going to have to warn you about is because of those two products, make sure if you ever use this, that you use it outside, at least in a well-ventilated area. Number 6, Chapped Lips. Now, this is an oldie but goodie, and I've already mentioned it a little bit before, but I think it's important to reiterate it because if you've ever had chapped and cracked lips, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is painful, it causes bleeding, and it's possible your lips can get infected. And you don't want that to happen. So a nice small film of petroleum jelly can help rejuvenate and protect those lips from whatever surrounding environment for you that may cause your lips to chap and crack. And now we're moving right along to number 7, repelling insects. That's right. Petroleum jelly can also be used to repel or at least deter insects from certain areas. Pretty much all you would need to do is just coat the area that you don't want them to crawl around or crawl on, and it can help repel them. If anything, it will help slow them down or get them stuck. So if you have like a small crack on the door you're worried about, or maybe a certain area full of your goodies, of your foods, a nice little amount of petroleum jelly around the bottom of that area should help keep them from crawling around on it. Now, I've also heard that it's also useful for mosquito repellent. However, I've not tried this myself, so I can't really testify to that. If any of my viewers out there has experience of using this to help repel mosquitoes, please comment below and share your experience with us. Number 8, chafing. If you're going on a long distance walk or run, kind of like how we talked about before, and you know you're vulnerable to chafing, a nice thin coat of petroleum jelly can help protect those vulnerable areas, such as thighs, underarms, nipples, those things you see where people get those nipple chafings and it starts bleeding. That stuff is real, folks. So don't be afraid to put a little bit of petroleum jelly on top of your nipples or any other vulnerable area that kind of help glide around the fabric and keep it from chafing and possibly bleeding and, of course, causing blisters and all kinds of unpainful, unnecessary stuff. So petroleum jelly will help go a long way, especially if you're going a long way, in providing a protective barrier for you and your vulnerable areas. Number 9, waterproofing. Petroleum jelly is also great for its waterproofing properties. Boots, for example, can be waterproof with petroleum jelly. Simply grab a pair of your old boots, go ahead and clean off the top surface of it really well, and then when you add a generous amount of petroleum jelly to it, you want to make sure you buff that in as well as you can. After that, you're going to let your boots dry on either a towel or maybe a newspaper, and they need to dry inside your house, out of sunlight, for about 24 to 48 hours. After that, your boots should be good to go. And that brings us to the last tip of this video, which is number 10, rust prevention. Rust prevention is kind of just like waterproofing, in that you can take petroleum jelly and add it to metal objects to help increase its rust prevention value, such as knives. Take a nice thin layer of petroleum jelly, coat your knives with it whenever you're not using them, and that should help keep them from tarnishing or help keep them from rusting. In an SHTF situation, metal tools such as knives are valuable, so it won't hurt you to add a little bit of petroleum jelly to it to make sure that you help extend its life in certain environments that look to try to decrease its life. So in a nutshell, if you are a prepper, you should be adding petroleum jelly to your preps, or also known as Vaseline. It is very cheap, as I've outlined in this video. It is very versatile, very useful. Go ahead, stock it up. Hopefully this video is informational to you. As always guys, please rate, comment, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Later.